Have you ever felt like no matter how much you give, how deeply you try to express your love, it's still not reaching him? You try to fix him, to support him, to explain what's in your heart, but it never quite lands. You may be sensing that the more you try, the more he pulls away. It's as if what he truly longs for is beyond words, beyond logic, beyond the love you've been taught to give. In today's video, we're going to uncover the real reason your divine masculine isn't responding the way you expect. We'll explore the deeper emotional and energetic needs he may not have the words to express, needs that go far beyond affection or reassurance. You'll learn why your efforts to show love may not be what he's truly searching for, and how to shift your energy in a way that speaks to his soul without saying a word. By the end of this video, you'll gain a powerful new understanding of how to become the sanctuary he needs. You'll stop exhausting yourself trying to prove love, and instead learn how to embody a presence that invites him to feel safe, seen, and free to be his authentic self. This is the path of the awakened feminine, one who doesn't chase or fix, but holds a sacred frequency that calls his true essence forward. If you've been sensing a shift, this may be your invitation to unlock his heart through your being, not your doing. So stay with us until the end, because what you discover here might just be the key to the connection you've been waiting for. And if you're ready for that kind of transformation, type in the comments, "I am preparing for sacred union." Let's begin. Number 1. The unspoken desire of the divine masculine. Beneath the surface of the divine masculine, hidden from the world and even from himself at times, exists a longing so profound it rarely finds words. It doesn't scream for attention, nor does it seek praise, validation, or even the comfort of being fully understood. Instead, this desire moves quietly, like a prayer whispered in the silence of his soul, a sacred yearning to be truly seen without judgment, to be felt without having to speak, to be accepted exactly as he is, even when he doesn't know how to show it. All his life, he's been trained to be unshakable. Strength, stoicism, and self-control have been his armor. Pain had to be buried, emotions silenced, and vulnerability was never an option. He's mastered the art of moving forward no matter the cost, even if that meant abandoning parts of himself along the way. He walks through the world with a mask so polished, few ever notice the weight behind his eyes, the silent ache that grows heavier each day he hides his true self. But then, something shifts. He encounters her, the awakened feminine. She does not demand. She does not chase. She simply is. Her energy doesn't just touch him. It penetrates the barriers he didn't even know he built. Her presence feels like a mirror to his soul, not reflecting who he pretends to be, but who he truly is beneath it all. It's not her words that reach him, but her frequency. It speaks directly to the part of him that remembers softness, remembers truth, remembers the safety of simply being. And in that moment, something inside him trembles. It's not fear in the way we usually understand it. It's the sacred fear of being seen so deeply that hiding is no longer possible. It's recognition of home, recognition of the love he never dared to believe he deserved, recognition of the woman whose energy awakens the man he was always meant to become. This is the unspoken desire he carries, the longing not to be saved, but to be safe, not to be fixed, but to be felt, not to be taught how to love, but to finally rest in the presence of one who is love. Before we move forward, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt this kind of quiet longing in someone you love? Or perhaps within yourself? If this message is stirring something deep in your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Tap the like button to support this sacred conversation and share your thoughts in the comments below. Even a simple sentence like, "I see him now," can be a powerful affirmation. not just for you, but for others walking this same path. Your voice matters. Your energy is part of this awakening. Let's continue together. Number 2, vulnerability as a portal to true intimacy. What if the key to deep, lasting love isn't found in grand gestures or perfect words, but in the silent places where we dare to be seen as we truly are? Real love, soulful, transformative love, demands more than appearances. It asks for truth, and truth, in its purest form, always requires vulnerability. For the divine masculine, vulnerability is not something easily accessed. Behind his steady gaze, behind the surface strength he shows to the world, lies a hidden place where words fall short, a sacred inner chamber he rarely reveals. In that quiet space, he doesn't ask for someone to fix him or to rescue him. What he craves is far more courageous. He wants to be held just as he is, to be allowed to unravel without fear of being judged, to cry without it costing him his dignity, to sit in uncertainty and still be wrapped in love. This is the heart of his longing, to be accepted in his wholeness, not only when he's composed, but when he's broken, raw and unsure. But the world doesn't often offer him this kind of safety. Conditioned to be the strong one, the provider, the protector, he has learned that emotions can be liabilities, that softness can be mistaken for weakness. So instead of opening up, he withdraws. He hides behind the mask of detachment, behind a stoic silence, behind the familiar and automatic words, "I'm fine." But make no mistake, his distance isn't apathy, it's fear. The fear that if you were to truly see him, not just the parts that shine, but the pieces that tremble, you might not stay. That if he brought all of himself to the table, especially the parts that ache, you'd decide he was too much. And yet, vulnerability remains the only real doorway to his heart. The moment he feels safe enough to fall apart in your presence, without shame or expectation, is the moment you begin to touch the truth of who he really is. Not the roles he's learned to perform, but the man beneath them, longing, feeling, hoping to be met with love, not for what he does, but for who he is when all the armor comes down. This is the portal. Not power, not perfection, but presence. Vulnerability is not a weakness. For him, it is the bravest act of all. Imagine this. He comes home after a long day, his shoulders heavy, his eyes distant. You sense something is off, but when you gently ask, he brushes it off with a quiet, "I'm fine." In that moment, you have a choice, not to press or fix, but to create space. So you sit beside him, not demanding answers, not trying to fill the silence. You simply place your hand on his, letting your presence say, "You don't have to carry it alone." And slowly, something shifts. Maybe his breath deepens, or his eyes begin to well with tears he's been holding back for years. Not because you asked the perfect question, but because he felt safe enough to be human, safe enough to feel without the fear of being judged. In that stillness, in your unwavering presence, he finds the courage to break, just a little, and be seen. And in that sacred moment, a new level of love is born. Not one built on roles or performances, but on raw truth, trust, and the silent power of simply being there. Number 3, his armor and his ache. Have you ever felt someone's presence so near, yet emotionally, they seem light years away? This is the paradox of the divine masculine. He may stand beside you in the same room, yet feel unreachable, as if wrapped in an invisible armor. That armor isn't arrogance or disinterest. It's protection. It's the shield he built in a world that taught him softness makes him weak, vulnerability makes him a target, and emotion must be earned or hidden. His soul yearns for closeness, but the rules he's lived by tell him he must remain composed, strong, unaffected. He wants to come back to you, to love, to connection. But something in him fears the return. Will he be welcomed with warmth or met with resentment for the time he was gone? He's not afraid of you. He's afraid of what his absence may have done. And deeper still, he's afraid that love may come at the cost of his pride. He longs to be fully loved, but only in a way that doesn't ask him to surrender his dignity or reveal wounds he hasn't yet named. What he craves more than anything is trust. Not just your trust in him, but a deeper, sacred kind of trust, that he is still becoming, still unfolding, still healing, and that even in his imperfect becoming, he can still be enough. He may not have all the answers, but he wants to be trusted while finding them. He may not always be soft, but he wants to know he's still safe to be held when he lets his guard down. This quiet ache inside him is not weakness. It's a soul remembering what home feels like. A home where he doesn't have to earn love with perfection. A home where he can return without shame. A home where the divine feminine sees not just the man he is, but the one he's becoming, and welcomes him, not in spite of his process, but because of it. Number 4, the feminine frequency. This kind of longing doesn't announce itself with bold declarations or dramatic gestures. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It lives quietly in the pauses between his messages, in the way he starts to reach out and then pulls back, in the way he shows up in your dreams, but not always in your days. To the untrained heart, it might seem like he's playing games, but this isn't manipulation, it's self-protection. What you're witnessing is not avoidance, but the visible trace of invisible wounds. For the divine masculine, the deeper the connection feels, the greater the fear of failing it. Love isn't just a gift to him, it's a test, a mirror, a risk. If he senses your importance, he also feels the weight of what it would mean to lose you, to disappoint you, to not be enough for you. That's why the feminine's role isn't just about speaking the right words, it's about radiating the right energy. Words may soothe the surface, but it's her frequency that reaches his soul. Her energy becomes his compass. It tells him more than logic ever could. If she embodies peace, he finds breath. If she holds softness, he feels the call to put down his weapons. Her presence tells him whether he's safe enough to be seen, not just in his power, but in his pain. And it's only through safety that he can ever surrender, ever speak what his lips cannot yet form into language. So, the real question is not, why won't he talk to me? It's something deeper, quieter, more honest. What energy am I radiating when he listens without words? In the space between what's said and unsaid, your frequency is the message. Your presence is the invitation. Your embodiment is the answer he's been searching for in silence. Number 5, creating the space for surrender. The divine masculine doesn't respond to pressure, persuasion, or perfectly crafted words. He listens with something far more ancient, his soul. And what his soul longs to hear isn't spoken aloud. It's felt in presence. It's sensed in the stillness between your words, in the way your energy says what your mouth never has to. You are safe here. You are free to be real. For a man who has spent a lifetime performing strength, this silent message is everything. It reaches beneath his armor, past the noise of doubt and the echoes of past wounds. When your presence radiates acceptance, not expectation, when your energy whispers, you don't have to be anything but yourself here, that's when his longing finds its courage. That's when the walls begin to lower, not because he's fixed or figured out, but because he's finally allowed to feel without fear. Reunion doesn't begin the moment he sends the first message, calls, or shows up. It begins the moment your presence becomes a sanctuary, a sacred space where he doesn't have to choose between love and dignity, a space where needing isn't weakness, where softness isn't shameful, and where vulnerability isn't punished but honored. He's not confused. He's cautious. He doesn't lack clarity. He lacks safety. In a world that taught him to hide his heart to survive, what he needs most is a place where he no longer has to hide to be loved. And only the awakened feminine, rooted in presence, can offer that kind of home. Not through effort, not through proving, but through simply being the space where he is free to come undone and still be held. Number 6, inherited conditioning. He doesn't just carry his own pain, he carries a legacy, a lineage of men who were taught, generation after generation, that strength is silence, that emotion is weakness, that their worth lies in what they can give, not what they feel. From fathers to sons, the message was clear. Be a protector, not a poet. Be a provider, not a receiver. Be hard, not human. So he learned to build walls instead of bridges, to tighten his jaw when it hurt, and to keep moving, even when his soul begged him to rest. By the time his heart begins to cry out for something more, something softer, truer, quieter, he finds himself lost without a map. His soul may yearn for love, connection, and peace, but he doesn't know how to ask for it. He was never given the words. Vulnerability was dangerous. Needing help meant he'd failed. Feeling too much made him less of a man. And so, when he finally meets the awakened feminine, who sees through his defenses, who doesn't demand performance but offers presence, he doesn't rush toward her. He freezes, not because he doesn't feel, not because he doesn't care, but because what she offers is the very thing he was trained to deny. Nourishment, emotional safety, sacred stillness. Her energy unearths parts of him that have long been buried, and instead of rejecting it, he trembles from the hunger he's carried his whole life, but never knew how to name. His hesitation isn't rejection, it's reverence. It's the shock of finding, for the first time, a place where he doesn't have to earn love with suffering. A space where his emotions are not threats, but truths. And in the quiet presence of the awakened feminine, something ancient begins to shift inside him. The conditioning may still whisper, but now, love whispers louder. Number 7. When the soul battles survival. You may feel the shift. Just when things begin to deepen, when intimacy starts to feel real, he pulls away. Not because the love isn't there, but because it is. This is the silent war between his soul and his survival instinct. His spirit gently whispers, "Let love in. Trust this. Stay." But fear, etched into the fibers of his nervous system, screams louder. Protect yourself. Run before it hurts. Disappear before you're abandoned. So he chooses silence, not as punishment, not as rejection, but as a reflex, a shield forged long before he met you. Behind that silence isn't a man who doesn't care. It's a man terrified of caring too much, terrified that if he opens the door to his need, you'll walk out of it. Because deep down, he doesn't believe he's allowed to need, to ache, to ask for comfort without consequence. He doesn't know how to say what his heart longs to express. I need softness, not pressure. Presence, not perfection. Time, not ultimatums. So instead, he shuts down. He may disappear for a while, pull back, or test the waters with mixed signals. He may say confusing things, not because he wants to hurt you, but because his deepest fear is already hurting him. The fear that depending on you will make him lose you. This is not the cruelty of a cold heart. It's the chaos of a soul caught in survival. A man who never learned that love could be safe. A man who wants to stay, but doesn't yet know how to exist in a space where love isn't earned through suffering or performance. And so, when he finds a woman whose energy offers peace instead of pressure, patience instead of panic, his soul recognizes it, but his conditioning resists it. What he needs most is not to be pursued, or fixed. He needs space to remember that love doesn't require him to be perfect to be worthy. And in your presence, if you can hold your center without chasing or shrinking, you become the quiet invitation he didn't know he was waiting for. The sanctuary where his soul finally wins the battle over fear and chooses to stay. If you've made it this far, it means this message touched something deep within you, and you're not alone. So many souls are navigating the same quiet battles between love and fear, truth and protection. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. Have you ever pulled away when what you truly wanted was to be held, or loved someone who did the same? We'd love to hear your story in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to feel seen. And if you're not ready to share your full story, that's okay too. Just type, "I choose love over fear," in the comments to affirm your healing and let the universe know you're ready to open, soften, and receive. Number 8. The feminine as a mirror of his becoming. What if the words he cannot say are waiting, not for your response, but for your stillness? Not the kind of silence that punishes or pulls away, but the kind that soothes his nervous system, that quiets the chaos inside him. He doesn't open up in reaction to pressure, he unfolds in the presence of peace. And it is this peace, your embodied presence, that becomes the safest language he knows. You don't need to chase him or decode his every silence. Your power is not in your doing, but in your being rooted in your truth, being steady in your softness, being anchored in your boundaries, not cold or distant, but deeply loving with clarity. He doesn't need your silence to feel like rejection. He needs your silence to feel like home. When you hold this kind of space, not to fix, not to wait endlessly, but to exist fully in your own aligned energy, you become the mirror that shows him who he truly is. Not the man his fears try to reduce him to, but the man his soul longs to remember. You reflect not his shame or confusion, but his sacred potential. And in your presence, something in him begins to melt. Not because you said the perfect thing, but because your energy whispered, "You are safe to feel here." This is what awakens the truth inside him. Not confrontation, not explanation, but resonance. In the still unwavering frequency of your feminine essence, his walls begin to soften. His voice, once buried beneath armor and avoidance, starts to rise. Not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. So ask yourself, not, "Am I being patient?" but, "Am I being present?" Because it's not the waiting that transforms him. It's the energy in which you wait. You are not a passive observer in his healing. You are a sacred mirror, and the reflection you offer can change everything. Number 9. From effort to embodiment. When he finally says the words, "I need you," it won't sound like a cry for help. It won't be laced with fear, urgency, or desperation. It will be calm, grounded, sincere, a moment of surrender that doesn't signal weakness, but healing. This isn't dependence. It's the sacred recognition that we were never meant to walk this path alone. But until that moment arrives, don't cling to the hope of hearing those words. Don't let your love become a performance, constantly seeking validation through proof or praise. Instead, trust the frequency, because before his lips form the words, his soul has already begun to speak. Even in silence, even in distance, his energy reaches for you. Not in the way the world teaches us to expect, with grand gestures or emotional declarations, but in a vibration that says, "I feel you. I remember you. I'm finding the courage to meet you." The truth is, he doesn't need to say it for it to be real. His journey is not linear, and his healing doesn't follow a script. What he's learning is revolutionary, that needing someone isn't a weakness, that longing doesn't make him less masculine, that vulnerability isn't shameful, but sacred, And when that realization finally lands, it won't lead him to demand your presence. It will lead him to honor it, to meet you not with ego, but with openness. Because it was never about the words. It was never about the timing. It was never about your effort to prove your love. It has always been about the energy you hold, the embodiment you live, the sanctuary you become. When your presence says, "You are safe to be real here," something inside him shifts. He begins to believe that needing doesn't mean losing power. It means finding truth. So don't wait for the confession. Feel the connection. Let your energy speak louder than your effort, because that's where real union begins, not in what is said, but in what is felt. In the end, it's not pursuit that leads to union, it's embodiment. The divine feminine does not need to beg, prove, or wait in silent agony. Her power is not in effort, but in essence. When she chooses herself, not as an act of rebellion, but as a return to her truth, she becomes magnetic. Her energy no longer pleads to be seen. It stands as a lighthouse, unwavering and whole. And in that radiant stillness, something profound stirs within him. Not guilt, not fear, but recognition. Her light awakens the remembrance of who he truly is beneath the masks, the wounds, and the silence. This is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of sacred reunion, born not from longing, but from alignment. If you feel this truth deep within, I invite you to comment below with, "I am the sanctuary that awakens him." Let this be your declaration, your embodiment, your mirror of love. And if this message has spoken to your soul, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this light, and watch the video recommended below to continue this journey toward inner and outer union. Your presence here matters. Keep choosing yourself, and watch what rises to meet you.